Okay, so there are a ton of AI tools popping up everywhere, right? It's a lot, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. So what we're going to do today is cut through all that noise. I'm going to give you a really clear mental model for picking the perfect AI tool for any task, so you know exactly which one to grab and, more importantly, why.
So let's just dive right in. We have all been there. You're staring at like 10 different browser tabs open, totally stuck in AI analysis paralysis. Which one's best for writing? Which one for research? Coding? Well, don't worry. Today, we're going to swap all of that confusion for a super simple, really powerful framework.
All right, so the very first thing you need to do is just split the entire AI world into two big buckets: everyday AI and specialist AI. Seriously, this one decision makes everything that comes after it so much easier. Think of it like this. Are you reaching for a Swiss Army knife or are you reaching for a scalpel? Both are incredibly useful, but for very different jobs. So what's the real difference here? Well, on one hand, you've got your everyday AI. These are your general-purpose chatbots, the ones you know and love. Think of them as your creative partner for brainstorming, for getting a first draft down, for just exploring ideas. And then on the other side, you have the specialist AI. These guys are your precision instruments. They've been fine-tuned to do one specific job, like finding facts or analyzing documents, and they do it better than anyone else. Let's start with those everyday tools: ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. You know, at first glance, they all kind of look the same. They all do similar things. But here's the secret. Each one has its own unique superpower. And understanding these differences is the absolute key to getting what you want out of them.
Look, all of these models are crazy powerful, no doubt about it. But ChatGPT still wears the crown in one absolutely crucial area: obedience. And in plain English, that just means if you give it a really complex task with a long checklist of instructions, it's the least likely to just drop the ball or decide it knows better than you.
And you really see this play out in the real world. For example, one user gave it this super detailed hiring rubric to create. We're talking like a dozen specific non-negotiable requirements, and ChatGPT nailed every single one. But when they gave the exact same task to Gemini, it just kind of quietly dropped a few of the rules. So the lesson here is simple. When every single detail matters and you've got a lot of moving parts, you start with ChatGPT.
Next up, we have Gemini, and its superpower is something called native multimodality. Now, that is a really fancy way of saying it's the only one of these big three that can truly understand video, audio, images, and text all at the same time inside this massive context window. It's not just, cheating and converting everything to text in the background. No, it's genuinely processing all these different kinds of media together.
And this opens up some seriously powerful workflows. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine this. You just finished a big meeting. You can upload the video recording, right? Then add the 20-page slide deck, and you can even snap a photo of your messy whiteboard notes and throw that in too. And then you just ask Gemini, hey, summarize this whole thing. It's literally the only tool that can pull all three of those different sources together in one shot.
Okay, rounding out our big three everyday tools is Claude. And its superpower, it gives you incredibly polished first drafts. I mean, the stuff it spits out, whether that's computer code or a blog post, is often way closer to a finished product, and that is going to save you a ton of time on revisions.
Okay, so where does this really shine? Two big areas. First, code. A lot of developers are finding that Claude writes functional code that just works on the first try, more consistently than the others. In one case, a user who's not even a coder got it to write a working script in a programming language they'd never even heard of. And second, polishing copy. You can feed it a bunch of your own writing, and it can replicate your specific tone and voice. It's kind of spooky how well it can turn a rough draft into something that sounds just like you.
Okay, hang on. Before we jump over to the specialist tools, we gotta clear something up because this confuses a lot of people. You've got these giant foundational models. Think of them like the raw engine, like GPT from OpenAI. Then you have apps, like Perplexity. Now, Perplexity didn't build a new engine from scratch. What they did was take an existing engine and then tune it, fine-tune it, for one very specific job, like being super fast and accurate for search.
All right, so that brings us to our second big bucket, specialist AI. These are the tools you pull out when you need that scalpel, not the Swiss Army knife. And we're going to look at two perfect examples: Perplexity and NotebookLM.
Okay, here's the most important thing to understand about Perplexity. It is not a replacement for ChatGPT. It's a replacement for Google. You see, your regular chatbots, they're built for reasoning, for thinking, for being creative. Perplexity is built for one thing: fetching. You need a specific, accurate, cited fact, and you need it now. So if you're planning a creative vacation, yeah, you use ChatGPT.
But if you just need to know right now, is this restaurant foreigner-friendly? You use Perplexity for a super fast, reliable answer.
All right, next up is Notebook LM, and its superpower is something called source grounding. The best way to think about it is like a walled garden. You give it your documents, your research, your notes, whatever, and it creates this little sandbox. It can only answer questions based on the stuff you put inside. It has zero outside knowledge, which means it literally can't make things up. It can't hallucinate.
Okay, so here's a super powerful workflow for anyone whose work really depends on being accurate. Before you finalize a big project, you upload your final draft into Notebook LM. Then you upload all your source material, all your research, and then you ask it one simple, powerful question. Are there any claims in my script that are not directly supported by these sources? It basically becomes your own personal fact checker, and it'll catch those tiny little things that other tools might miss. Okay, let's pull all of this together now. We've seen what each of these tools is great at, what their individual strengths are. So now, let's build the ultimate cheat sheet so you can put together your own perfect AI stack.
So just to recap, this is the whole thing in a nutshell. Got a super complex task with a million steps? You're going to use ChatGPT for its obedience. Need to make sense of a video, a slideshow, and your notes all at once? That's Gemini, and it's multimodality. Want a first draft of code or an email that's almost perfect right out of the gate? That's Claude's Polish. Need a quick, cited fact, like right now? That's Perplexity. And finally, if you need to make sure your work is 100% backed up by your own sources, you use Notebook LM for its source grounding.
And really, that brings us to the biggest point of this whole thing. Look, the goal here is not to use a million different AI tools just because they're new and shiny. The goal is to solve your actual problems by being deliberate and choosing the right tool for the job, based on its unique superpower. So I'm going to leave you with a question. You have the framework now. You see how it works. So take a look at your own workflow, from the very beginning of an idea to the final fact check at the end. Which part of that process is the first one you're going to upgrade with the right tool?